G'day guys, welcome to Lucy's channel, Lucy Lane, the Queen of Balmain. Today we're going to talk about 5 things that could save your German Shepherd's life. Now make sure you hang out to the end and tune into number 5 especially, because this one nearly slipped us up the other day and could have caused serious harm. Now the first thing you can do to save your German Shepherd's life is don't overfeed them, aka don't have a sausage dog. So what I mean by this is commonly we see too many German Shepherds that are a little bit fluffy around the edges, and they could all probably be just a little bit leaner. So German Shepherds are traditionally, as we all know, a herding dog, a lean, athletic herding dog, and they don't need to have too much body weight on them. The reasons why you don't want to have your German Shepherd too overweight or above the average weight for its size is because they're a little bit more prone than the average dog to conditions like hip dysplasia and arthritis. And having an overweight dog will essentially help contribute towards those diseases that they can face down the line. So what I do with Lucy, a simple thing is, I pretty much just use visuals to see how lean she is and what her condition's like. So I ideally like to have her last rib showing and a nice tapered hip area where her hind legs join her torso. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to throw a photo up here. This is kind of the perfect conditioning that I like Lucy. But yes, having your German Shepherd a little bit fluffier than usual will contribute to significant health consequences later on in life. So don't be one of those people who kill your dog with kindness. So the second thing that you can do to save your German Shepherd's life is minimize the risk of stomach bloat. The stomach bloat is essentially one of the German Shepherd's biggest kryptonites, and it's something that really terrifies me and with Lucy, and has made me very vigilant around her feeding schedule and trying to minimize the risk of this happening. This essentially is very common in large dogs and is even more common with the German Shepherd breed due to genetic factors. We personally know about 4 German Shepherds, and another young German Shepherd just recently has died from the stomach flipping inside of them and the owner not being able to attend to it soon enough. It is potentially fatal when it happens if they aren't given the correct medical attention straight away. So we're going to go through a little checklist right now on procedures that we do with Lucy on how to prevent her stomach flipping inside of her. So the first one is a disorganized feeding routine. One large meal a day is more likely to cause bloat over several smaller meals per day. So what we do with Lucy is I actually only like to feed her 1 meal a day at the end of the day, so it's kind of contradicting this, but I actually split her meal up into 2 smaller meals that she has in the late afternoon and in the evening with a little break in between. A couple of reasons why is because we're very active in the morning. She does a lot of her training and her 2 hours of exercise in the mornings, so I don't want her to be running around with a heavy stomach. Plus, having her a little bit hungry through the day makes her more responsive to training. Now, people say, why don't you just feed her afterwards? The last thing I want is an accident happening where I've fed Lucy, then I go to work, and then the inevitable happens, her stomach flips, and then she's at home for 6, 7, 8 hours on her own. So I like to control this as much as possible whilst minimizing the risks. The next one is quick eating. Absolutely. Quick eating is the biggest pain in the ass in the world, and Lucy is a guzzler no matter what she eats. So what we did there, we got her a slow feeder bowl. Highly recommend that you can do that as well. A consistent solid diet. A mixture of wet and dry food is less likely to cause stomach bloat. Completely agree. So what we do with Lucy, because we only have her on a kibble at the moment, so what we do, we pre-soak her kibble for around 15 minutes before she has it. The next one is not drinking enough water. So this is a big one with Lucy, and I found a little trick in the book to help her to drink more water. So Lucy does a lot of swimming every day in the ocean, which then I have to bring her home and I have to hose her down in the backyard so she doesn't get hot spots. But what we do is when I'm hosing her down, she loves guzzling water out of the tap. So I don't know, some sort of game, but at least she's getting hydrated. So what I do now, if I haven't seen her have enough water through the day, I'll take her outside pretending to hose her down, and then I'll just put the hose on a low pressure for her, and then she just starts drinking water, just so I know she's staying hydrated. Now here's the big one, and one that we should all be really monitoring, is exercising around meal timing. Our rule of thumb is Lucy doesn't consume food 1 hour before or 1 hour after exercise, and we just live that religiously. So the third thing that you can do that could save your dog's life is not feed them tomatoes.
Tomatoes. You've never seen a film like it.
No, not really. You can feed them tomatoes, but you've got to be very careful, and here's why. So we just learned just recently, if you feed your German Shepherd the green viney part of a tomato, the leaves, or a green part of the tomato, it's actually extremely toxic for dogs and can make them very sick. Now, in worst cases, it can actually lead to seizures. So if your dog has consumed the green part of the leaf or the viney part of a tomato, just keep an eye on them, and if you're worried, please take them to the vet. Now the fourth thing that could save your German Shepherd's life is please treat them as a part of the family and let them be an inside dog. But what I mean by this is, just because they're a big, large dog doesn't mean they live in the backyard while you and your family live in the house. These dogs are pack animals, as most dogs are, but these guys develop super special and tight bonds with men. And they can develop severe anxiety if left in the backyard unattended. These guys want to curl up and watch TV with you in the lounge room and fall asleep with you in the bedroom. They are a part of the family, and they are not meant to be turfed out in the backyard as a normal dog. There is nothing normal about a German Shepherd. Now, the last one, the fifth thing that could save your German Shepherd's life is boundary training. So what is boundary training? Boundary training is essentially when you set a boundary on a specific area where the dog is not allowed to cross over unless given permission. So if I open the front door and walk through it, Lucy knows she's not allowed to walk through unless she's given permission to. So the other night we had a guest here, and they obviously had their German Shepherd with them as well. So yes, had two big German Shepherds, hairy as hell, in our little house. But what happened, one of the doors, so the door and the front gate was left open for a period of time when we had some people coming and going. So both dogs went to go flying out of the house. One dog was stopped by an invisible force field at the door, and the other dog went flying straight out of the house and onto the road, and could have been hit by a car if one was coming past at that time. Thank God it wasn't. So essentially, what stopped Lucy from running out onto the road, even though the doors are open in the house, was boundary training. What didn't stop the other dog from running onto the road was the lack of boundary training. Now, boundary training could essentially save your dog's life, especially if you live in a busy environment where your front door and front gate lead onto a busy road, because essentially your front door and front gate are probably being opened and closed a lot. So, and you want to be able to utilize your front door and front gate with bringing things in, bringing things out. You want to be comfortable in leaving the door open and not have the dog trying to get out every time that you open the front door. Because we've all kind of experienced going to someone's house and it's, quickly shut the door so the dog doesn't get out. So that is a lack of boundary training. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed our top 5 things that could save your German Shepherd's life. If you did, please drop a like and a comment. If you have any questions, subscribe if you're not, and we will see you in the next video. You gonna go, bookies?